everyone. I'm gonna share a song with you today, which is actually from an album. Yes, I have an album that's not on Bandcamp. It's actually music by one of the guests we're gonna have on today. And you might actually recognize this text. Anyway, this is called Can You Canoe? In a van when the traffic jam loops, jam loops. I can canoe in Kalamazoo. I can canoe in Kamloops. But I cannot canoe at 1:45 in a van when the traffic jam loops. Can you? And now welcome back your hosts, Adam Bailey.
Hi there. Thank you, Kristin, and thank you everyone for joining us today. We have an amazing show for you. We have composer and theater creator Alex Eddington with us, and we also have comedy writer Sharilyn Johnson. But first, Mind, Path to Thalamus. Mind, Path to Thalamus is a first-person puzzle game that allows you to explore fantastical environments while making changes to the weather in order to solve puzzles that allow you to continue your path through the game. Mind, Path to Thalamus is just challenging enough to keep you engaged. Meanwhile, these lush graphics and the beautiful soundtrack will keep you calm after a long day of working 10 hours on Zoom. Mind, Path to Thalamus is available.
Adam.
Yes?
This sounds like a really interesting game, but why are you doing a video game review in our show? There's like 8 billion video game review shows on YouTube. We're a talk show. We should be talking. You're supposed to be doing a monologue.
I know. I mean, I've been playing a lot of video games over the past 2 weeks because I just can't anymore, Kristin. Do you remember 2 weeks ago when Donald Trump was let out of the hospital while he still had COVID-19 during the infectious phase and was allowed to go out to meetings where he could possibly be passing this virus on to other people?
Yes, I remember that.
And do you remember that we were all told that he was on an experimental cocktail of steroids, the side effects of which included illusions of grandeur, as well as a sense of invulnerability. And this was being given to a United States president who was already a narcissist and completely inadequate for his job, and who holds the keys to the nuclear code.
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah. Well, guess what, Kristin? I can't take it anymore. And my brain, it's on fry. I need video games right now. And I can tell that I am not the only person who's supposed to be giving you monologues that feels this way. In fact, here, put up this slide. Put this up.
Okay, this one?
Yes.
Oh yeah, okay, Borat.
This should be humongous news this week. This slide is Mayor Rudy Giuliani being caught with his hands literally down his pants, alone in a hotel room with a woman that he assumed was a minor, by comedian Sacha Baron Cohen as Borat. This should be something that pundits and comedians are making hay with right now. At this stage in the election, I mean, the Roots should be opining about this mayor finally facing his fall from politics due to a stop and frisk operation. But no one has any energy for that right now. Mostly it's getting some jokes, but it's just because nothing means anything right now, Kristin. So why not play some video games?
Well, that's an excellent use of your leisure time, but we've spent like, I don't know, like 4 months creating expectations in our audience that we begin the show with a monologue from you. So I'm going to have to insist that you fulfill your contractual obligations and do that.
Fine. Give me the screen. Hello, everybody. There's no easy way to say this right now, but we are coming up collectively on our last point of shared certainty. And that somehow is the US general election. I mean, normally at this state in an American election, we're fairly confident that there are two paths for the future. We've vetted two men to be president, and they've told us what they're going to do if they get that job, and we know where we're going from there. But that's not the truth this time. The future is Epilogue. America is leaving an abusive relationship. And if you've ever left an abusive relationship, then you know one of the biggest hurdles is just imagining a better future for yourself. Very often you find that you have to move backwards in order to move forwards. Maybe you end up staying at a older relative's house, happens to be a conservative but good-hearted, and from that place you can finally make some plans to move forward, not being afraid at every moment. But while making these plans, you know that there is a very real chance that your abuser can and will retaliate as you try to make your move. And so it's difficult to give yourself a sense of hope. All you can do is get yourself someplace where you're safe to sleep for the night and move forward from there. And sadly, that's an apt metaphor for where we are at this moment in time. Indeed, we haven't even taken stock that this election will be the last baby boomer election. I mean, Joe Biden has basically promised us that he will be a one-term president, and Donald Trump theoretically is on his last term, unless something else happens there. After this, it's time for the baby boomers to give up, and it's time for Gen X and millennials to take over. It's like the end of a phase of Marvel movies with Kevin Feige lining us up with Easter eggs that will get us excited about where we can go forward, but we don't quite know what they mean right now. The thing is, the Thanos snap hasn't been undone yet. And for all those Marvel fans out there, you know that snap doesn't undo the pain and torture of the 4 years that Thanos wreaked havoc on our world. It only brought some people and some hope and possibility back, a hint of normality. But in 2 weeks, if you're an American, you have the chance to vote, and so please do so. Hey, polls are open right now. And if you've already voted, go and volunteer to help get other people out to vote. It looks like we're going to have the biggest election turnout in the United States of America since 1908. And so, you know, at least one metric looks good. And with that cheerful monologue, let's bring back your co-host, Kristin Mueller-Heaslip.
Yeah, that was a little bit gloomy, but you know, I have something that might cheer you up.
Is it a video game?
No, it's about religion.
You know, there's nothing that will cheer me up like religion, Kristin. Oh,
Exciting Pope news. Cool Pope Francis endorses same-sex civil unions for the first time. So Pope Francis says basically, yeah, people in same-sex marriages deserve civil rights. This may not sound like a lot, but coming from him, this is pretty big.
wow, he really is the Phil Dunphy of popes. Like when you said cool pope, like cool dads, cool pope. That's right. Yeah. That is who this one is. I mean, I did get a little bit of a kick out of this for about 5 minutes when the news broke, but I mean, endorsing same-sex civil unions is not the same as endorsing same-sex marriages. I mean, I am fine with it so long as all the straight people stop using the term marriage when they're describing their partnerships out in, general society, because that's a religious term and you should keep it to yourself. You too are only in a same civil union.
Yes. And, the Pope actually probably would go for that as well, because there are rules about who can get married in the Catholic Church, which are much more strict than in the legal definition of marriage. He would probably be totally down for that. But I'm putting on my lapsed Catholic hat, I guess my Pope hat for a second. This is pretty big. Man, I should have got a Pope hat for this bit. This is pretty big because this is about as progressive as the Catholic Church will get. And coming from after, speaking about, the guy that comes after the reactionary guy, this is like the last Pope was pretty anti-Semitic, said a lot of stuff. And this guy comes in and is like, dogs go to heaven. Sure, gay people can have civil unions. That's huge. So
wait. Dogs can go to heaven?
Dogs can go to heaven.
Put yourself back up on full screen. You need to explain that a little bit more. That it's off topic, but I need to know more about dogs not going to heaven, because the movie I grew up with said all dogs go to heaven, and now you're telling me that the Pope might say something different?
No, I'm afraid that the very odd animated movie, which I tried to watch with my kids recently and was like, no, this is weird AF. All dogs go to heaven was not the official position of the Catholic Church until quite recently. Apparently pets get to go to heaven as of maybe 2 years ago. I don't know what happens to all those pets who died before that, but I'm afraid I don't remember any more details.
Well, the Mormons have a practice of people after they die getting converted to Mormonism so they can go to heaven. All the Jewish people who died in the Holocaust are now Mormon, so that they can be in Mormon heaven. So maybe all the pets that died before they could be Catholic pets and go to heaven, maybe the Mormons can step in and save them.
Why not? Stranger things have happened. I'm sure you can adopt a pet at your local your local animal shelter or dog or a pet rescue. It's always better. Adopt, don't shop. Maybe you can do that if you don't have room in your life for an actual pet. Maybe you can spiritually do that to save a late pet from eternal torment or nothingness. Always bringing the cheery content today.
Yeah, thanks for lifting up the spirit. Now we're talking about dead pets. That's the place that we're in. Yeah. With less than 2 weeks before the U.S. election, where the things that cheer us up are where our pets will go after they die. Mm-hmm. But not everything is doom and gloom. We do have some cheery things, including some cheery underwear that we can talk about.
Yeah, sure. Why not? Let's talk about that now. So I guess this show is brought to you today by Bottomsup Handmade Underwear. This is my handmade artisanal underwear company, and you can buy some underpants or bras, bralettes. They're really super comfortable. If I were wearing a bra right now, which I'm not, I would be wearing one of those because this is all I wear now. thenooks.ca/bottomsup.
I think a lot of women are not wearing bras right now. That's just my general sense of where the world is.
Yeah, you know what? The Zoom call is from here up. It's completely optional. But if you want the kind of light support house bra that is, you don't even feel like you're wearing something, but makes you look a little bit lifted, this is what you need.
Fantastic. And I'm glad that you brought that up. There is another way that people can support the content on this show as well. Of course, we have coffee.
Yeah, we have. You can buy us a coffee. If you want to support the show, drop us a few dollars. Zoom accounts aren't free. Well, they are, but not the kind that you were using today. And all of our admin stuff and our, equipment and stuff. So we will always make the show free. We love you just for watching it. But if you want to drop a couple dollars in the virtual tip jar, we will love you maybe a tiny little bit more.
Fantastic. Well, I mean, we have a lot to get through today. And I mean, our news has been very odd, but our first guest is kind of odd too. So why don't we invite Alex Eddington to the screen and say hi to Alex. Hello.
Hello.
How are you doing today?
I'm okay. It's great to see you in this virtual world since I can't imagine the last time I saw you in the physical world. It seems like eternity ago.
We were supposed to see each other right as everything shut down, because we actually had a show opening that we both worked on. Literally 2 days after the shutdown was officially commenced and no shows could happen anymore.
That's right. That's right. And I remember the debate we were having about should we go through with it or not, but everything was really closing down around.
Yeah, we fortunately closed, like, for our personal image, we closed our show right before we were told we had to close our show by like maybe 2 days, and so we looked like things
that way.
Yeah,
that was a strange time for me personally as well, because I turned 40 like right then, like on the day that everything shut down. So I really feel like, in a way, like either I caused it, or like when other people in my life turn 40, which, a lot of my old high school friends are, I'm like, hey, welcome to your 40s. Mine started a lockdown. I hope yours is less, whatever that is.
I started my 40s at a karaoke bar, gorging myself on wings and getting a little too drunk. So like that's what you're supposed to do. Yeah, it's much better.
I didn't. I sort of was like, I'm clearing my office out from my teaching job, and I have no idea when I'll be back. It was weird, but memorable.
Now, just to let the audience know who you are, Alex Eddington, you are a composer and you are a theater creator. You actually have worked with both myself and Kristin on separate projects.
Yes.
You and I worked on a show called Franz Ferdinand Must Die, which was all about radicalization and the end of empire and colonialism, which has nothing to do with the modern world, and surprisingly was actually about the beginnings of World War I. And tell us a bit about the project that you are launching with Kristin right now.
Absolutely. So, I should say I know you both from kind of different worlds initially, because I know you through kind of clowning and theater, and I know Kristin going back, almost 20 years now. I'd say we met in the year 2000. We were both at U of T together in undergrad music. I was a composer. Kristin was in as a vocalist and also a pianist. And as you saw in her intro, she can do both at the same time, which is pretty impressive. So Kristin and I, starting in 2000, 2001, we started collaborating together. I was very much focused on like being a composer back then. And I wrote her, the first thing I wrote her was a song cycle of poetry by Dennis Lee, who, among other things, is known for Alligator Pie and other books of children's poetry. And so what you heard her sing at the beginning, Can You Canoe, that's from, I forget which book. It's from one of his classic 70s, early 80s children's books. So that piece is one track on an album that we are going to be releasing in January. As COVID goes, it was originally going to be like October release and then November, December. It's looking like January now. This is an album kind of profiling things that we've done together through time. So there's that piece from 2001. There are pieces from like 2008. There's one 2012 I wrote for her to sing at my wedding, and then she got bronchitis and never was able to sing it. But we've found a home for it on this album. And then there's some brand new stuff. The opening track, which you folks are going to play as the kind of outro today, is a bunch of Kristin's multi-track together and made to sound a bit robotic. And here's why. It's not just a random smattering of music. We wanted this to be like a concept album. And so the idea is, the inspiration is the Voyager spacecraft. Okay, stay with me here. 1977, or maybe it was 78, there's two Voyager spacecraft. They were launched. This is during the Jimmy Carter administration. launched by NASA, and they're just now they are leaving our solar system. Although the edge of the solar system is an intangible thing, so it's hard to say. Like, there's no like 1 second when they cross out. But they will be traveling for something like 35,000 more years before they're fully out of like the Oort cloud and closer to another star. It's mind blowing. So I happen to be researching this for another musical project and thought this is really fascinating because these spacecraft have a record on them, and it's like a record of humanity's existence. It's called the Golden Record, and it has music from throughout human history and from around the world. It has people saying hello in languages from around the world, including the oldest recorded language that ever existed, which I forget the name of it. And it has images which were in the 70s were encoded digitally or encoded analog somehow in this. I don't know how they did it. And basically it's greetings from Earth. And the idea is that it'll last for 1 billion years, and maybe someone will find it, and maybe most likely nobody will. But if they find it, they'll be like, oh my gosh, here are these Earthlings, and they were pretty cool. So getting back to our album, Kristin and I thought, what if we took a compendium of music we've made together and launched it out and releasing an album that's independently funded for the most part, and of contemporary vocal music is a bit like launching a spacecraft out of the solar system and hoping someone will find it and listen to it. Maybe we'll have a few more listeners than Voyager. I don't know. But we are launching it, and we're designing it around the Golden Record. Anyway, this is a whole segue. I was talking about the first track.
This is amazing, Alex. I am blown away.
I guess I never told you this stuff.
Last week we had someone on who was like a yarn guru, but also a theoretical mathematician.
Oh, wow.
This week we're getting music and astrophysics tied together. I
always have these other weird interests. I don't know. It's kind of my thing.
I love being gobsmacked by our guests. Now, we do have to keep moving. So I'm going to say, we have one of your tracks that we want to play right now. And after that, I'm going to be interviewing Sharilyn Johnson. But before I let you go, would you like to stick around and do the news with us later in the show?
Sure, of course.
Fantastic. So can you just tell us the name of this piece that we're going to play, and then we'll put that up?
So this is from the longest track on the album, which is called Time Will Erase. And it's like a short opera for soprano singer with alto saxophone. And Kristin wrote the words, and I wrote the music, and then Kristin is singing it. So it's about Anna Akhmatova, the Russian poet who had to hide her work during Lenin and Stalin's time, and then it later emerged. And this is a recollection she's having about a salon she once attended. That's all I'll say.
Excellent. Well, let's hear it, everyone. Alex Eddington and Kristin Mueller-Heaslip.
It was in Sorkoye Salo, and I was quite young. I remember it well. I was at some salon, sitting on the floor, trying to hear the music through the chatter of voices and laughter. In front of me sit two daughters of the house, fat, florid laughter showing their big teeth. Behind me, two elegant sisters of fashion, their non-noble clothes flowing over folding chairs. I feel awkward, wrong, slumped on the floor. They are professional, I amateur. They genuine, I counterfeit. Their straight, slim bodies give the lie to my pains. I haven't the strength to hold myself upright. No one listens to the violin, far away he scrapes, and no one will listen to the fat soprano. Dizzy and wild, I want to bite those fat necks, scratch the long thighs, break the violin across my knee. little did I know that I was right.
That'll be the one.
Wow, that was amazing. Thank you
Thanks.
so much.
Thank you.
Well, it's now time for us to bring on our next guest, which is Sharilyn Johnson. Sharilyn, how are you doing today?
I am good. How are you?
I am fantastic. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
I'm really excited to have you on.
I'm excited to be here.
It was funny, as I was writing up that you were going to be our guest today, I wanted to shout out that you are the star and writer of a show called Fake News Fangirl, which at the time was a call out to shows like Jon Stewart's The Daily Show, The Colbert Report, Larry Wilmore's The Nightly Show, which I take a lot of influence from all of these, especially Larry Wilmore. And then I realized that fake news has a different connotation now. And if I were to call you a fake news fangirl, people might think you were a bit more MAGA than you actually are.
Yeah, I'm 0% MAGA. But yeah, interestingly, like I feel like when I tell people about that show now, because we're going back a few years, I feel like when I talk about it now, it makes me sound like somehow edgier, like this was like some like deep satire of itself, when really it was just a storytelling show about fandom. But it has taken on a whole new connotation because, back when, I wrote that show 10 years ago, performed it starting 9 years ago, Jon Stewart would call his show on the Colbert Report the fake news. He would sometimes even a couple times at the beginning of the Daily Show say, "Oh, welcome to the fake news," and it just became a whole other thing.
Now you haven't just recorded a history of those shows though. You've also done some more local history. You wrote the oral history of the Comedy Bar here in Toronto for Vox magazine.
Yeah, so I should explain to people, I've written some stuff that's creative work, but my background is in journalism, and most people would know me as a comedy reporter. So a writer about comedy more so than a writer of comedy. But yeah, one of the things I did 2 years ago, almost exactly 2 years ago, when Comedy Bar had its 10th anniversary, I wanted to write about it as an oral history. And it was actually the first time I had ever written an oral history. I love reading them, but they are a huge, huge undertaking. But everyone in the community was amazing. And I ended up getting quotes from people that I think people didn't expect as they were reading this story, with quotes from Gary and Pat Thornton and Don, that like, oh, all of a sudden there'd be a quote from Maria Bamford. Oh, all of a sudden Kevin Sorbo shows up. Oh, all of a sudden like Chris Gethard is comparing it to UCB. So I tend to not read my articles back after I read them, because there's just, it's like a no-win situation. You just read it and you're like, oh, I could have added something more here, I could have added something more there. But so for the first time in 2 years, I actually sat down and reread it the other day, and I was like, it's actually really great. So I'm really proud of that piece. And like, not to be egotistical, but like, it's nice to go back and read your own stuff and be like, you know what, I wouldn't change a thing about this.
I mean, we talked earlier at the top of the show, I'm sure you heard, about the end of the baby boomer reign of terror, which of course was not a reign of terror. It was just, an overextended reign of a generation.
Oh, you're very uplifting monologue today. Yes.
Very, so cheerful. But it's interesting because that article is about contemporary comedy history, and like a lot of people would be like SCTV. When we think about comedy history, it's all SNL, SCTV, this very baby boomery stuff. But the Comedy Bar here in Toronto has a huge impact. Other bars have modeled themselves after it. Now I know the Grindhouse in Edmonton is based directly off the Comedy Bar and has had a relationship with them. That's a really important comedy theater, and capturing that history was really important. It's a great article. And of course, Kevin Sorbo, you got to interview Kevin Sorbo, and so that's a win right there.
Interview that it was me emailing his publicist, which I think was actually Kevin Sorbo, and asking for a quote and then receiving it. So it was close to an interview, but I'll take it.
I'm imagining that he sat shirtless on your couch while you asked him questions about the comedy bar, and you just had to like try and pretend like he wasn't shirtless. I think like my image of what people who are professional studs in Hollywood are like in private is just them absently mindedly being shirtless all the time, and you having to pretend like that's normal.
You know what? I think you should hold that in your mind and not Google his politics. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, let's skip past that one. Speaking of people that we could Google their politics for, though, you've also interviewed Conan O'Brien.
Yeah. Speaking of like apolitical, although he has been a little more political than I think he's ever been recently. Yeah, I interviewed him. Yeah, about 2.5 years ago for Vanity Fair, which was super fun. He was so nice and so cool, and I had always been a fan of his. But after talking to him, I'm like, okay, like if anyone slanders this man, they'll have to answer to me. Like I'm like, I will defend him at every turn. He was so lovely. It's like everything you ever want in an interview. A lot of times you interview people who've been interviewed a lot, and they kind of come into it thinking they know what to expect, and they'll listen to your question and sort of answer what they sort of want the question to be. But he was like a level of engaged that I did not expect, which it was absolutely wonderful, and I would love to talk to him again someday.
Well, I hope that you do. And I hope that our audience does look up some of the articles that we've mentioned. They're really great articles. They do stand the test of time. Also, your book, and we'll bring up that slide right now, on the Colbert Report. Well, it's not his current show, but it's, that good looking Stephen Colbert right there. And you've got the whole history right there for everyone. Where can people find that?
You can get it from Amazon. You can also go to any independent bookstore, so support your indie bookstores, and they can special order it for you. So yeah, definitely anywhere that you buy books, you can buy that. The ebook, I believe, is only available through Amazon, but the actual like paper hard copy, you can order from anywhere because they get it from all from the same distributors. It's through Ingram.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Now, having someone like you on a show like this is a real get for us because this is the sort of thing that you do and that you're really into, and we're about to do the news. So are you excited to do the news with us today?
Well, I mean, I'm feeling some pressure, but yeah, I'm excited.
Trust me, there's no pressure. I started the show off with a video game review. Yes. Let's move forward and get the news going.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our news segment, which is called This is a News Segment. I want to start today with a slight disclaimer, which I feel is kind of important to say. As you will be no doubt aware, Adam and I are really, really, really not journalists. We are, how like all those right-wing assholes will say, I'm not a journalist, I'm an entertainer, so I can tell whatever lies I want. We're really not journalists. We really just are entertainers. So if we're not covering a news story that's really important, it's not because we don't care. It's because probably we didn't want to make fun of it. So with that in mind, let's get started. Our first story today is actually an update on an earlier story we did maybe 4 shows ago. I don't remember when this was. Second report of a person with a jetpack flying near LAX prompts new investigation. People are flying jetpacks around the Los Angeles airport and no one knows why.
So Sharilyn, this is your chance to dive in and give us your fresh take on our first news story. Why don't you go for it? Tell us what you think. We were promised jetpacks in the 21st century.
I don't know. I mean, has anyone investigated Wile E. Coyote in this? Is this an Acme product that is being tested? Should we be looking for like piles of free bird seed as well in the Los Angeles area?
I think those are two things that they do need to look into. And I mean, bird control is very important near an airport. So that would be a good job for Wile E. Coyote.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Alex, what's your fresh take on jetpacks?
I'm just thinking about all the places where I would want to test out my new jetpack. And I think the busiest airport in the world is pretty low on the list. It just doesn't seem like there'd be enough of a clearance, but that is a good reason. That very good point about birds, because they employ hawks to get rid of like the other dangerous birds at airports. But why not just have a guy in a jetpack going and like tackling the birds out of the sky? That'd be much faster.
Man in jetpack gets in fight with goose at LAX. Like that's the next headline.
But yeah,
that
that's like
Bring
2
it.
months from now.
I love geese. I love them.
What gets me is also that this causes them to start a new investigation. So that like someone flew with a jetpack and they went, "Oh, that's strange. We should look into it." But COVID was happening. They're like, "Okay, that's enough of looking into."
Call off the investigation.
We've all got too much on our plates lately. Who has not dropped a project at work that they were like, "Oh, I'll get to that later."
This also kind of sounds like one of those Red Bull stunts, but if they got their budget slashed. Like they're like, we have no money, but like, let's just drop a jetpack on somebody and see how high it goes.
Yeah. Or did you watch David Blaine do that balloon thing?
Oh yeah, there you go.
That was fantastic. So maybe this is for some reason an unpublicized thing he's doing.
Publicity stunt, sure, yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean, one thing David Blaine hates is publicity.
Yeah.
there is a very minor Doctor Who villain called the Rocket Men, which are bandits with jetpacks. So perhaps one of them got lost. That's my theory.
Okay.
But before we end, David Blaine is one of those celebrities that has a muscular torso that actually does absentmindedly go around shirtless a lot. So my theory isn't completely off.
It's possible.
All right. In more science news, a couple of science stories today. Scientists discovered 24 super habitable planets with conditions that are better for life on Earth. Spoiler alert, they're all over 100 light years away. But let's not tell Elon Musk that because maybe he'll go. Also,
alert, they're only better than Earth because Trump's not on those planets.
Exactly. There's no people. The moon is getting cell service. Nokia, I believe, has been contracted to set up a cell network on the moon, which I guess people are planning to go back there in the next couple of years.
Better be
And
5.
if they are, you can now check your Facebook from the moon.
Okay, so who wants to tackle this? Super habitable planets plus cell phones on the moon.
Well, we better go there faster than Voyager is, because like in 40 or 50,000 years, Voyager will finally be slightly closer to another star than to our own star. So we need to find a faster way to get to these places and to bring stuff there. How did they find out they were habitable? I mean, usually they don't even see images of these things, right? It's just like a gravitational pull on the light of a reflection of a lensing of like it's indirect. How do we know they're habitable? That's my question.
Excellent question, and I don't remember. So
I probably know this one. Because you can tell from the reflections, sort of the gashel makeup of the. I've been listening to Neil deGrasse Tyson's Physics for People in a Hurry on Book on Tape. So, but there's a way.
Do you have a theory about Neil deGrasse Tyson being shirtless and wandering around?
No.
Okay.
But I do have theories of science based on what he said. So I think there's that, but there's also a thing which I knew before this tape. Called the Goldilocks zone around stars. And so if you know what sort of star you're looking at, you find planets that are reflecting the right colors, displaying like a more hydrogen carbon-based gas around them, and they're in that Goldilocks zone, then the chance that they would be habitable is probably quite high.
There's habitable and there's habitable. I mean, there's parts of Earth I don't want to live on, and all of Earth is supposedly in the Goldilocks. Like, I don't want to live in Florida. There's a reason my parents left Florida in the 70s, Sorry for anyone listening from Florida. It's just not my bag.
We do have some audience in Florida. We've done interviews from Tampa, but yeah. Well, Sharilyn?
Yeah, no, I'm really more fascinated with the internet on the moon. Because I just feel like human nature is like, you're going to show up somewhere, oh good, I have internet service, and then just your face is going to be buried in your phone the entire time. Go all the way to the moon just to be checking my Twitter notifications. But also, the positive side is that you can go on a Zoom meeting and you will have the best background of anybody.
Yeah, it's not even a fake background. I am really on the moon.
Is there a 30-second delay? Like, how quickly does the signal get to and from the moon? I don't know.
No one has been to the moon since like 1972, so this is all theoretical. It hasn't happened yet. I assume there will be some lag, but there always is lag over Zoom. So,
Why
It's
is it
just
4G? Can they make a 5G network on the moon?
Because 5G causes cancer and they don't want to give the Nazis who are living on the dark side of the moon cancer. Don't you know anything about
The moon already
QAnon?
gives people cancer. You breathe in that regolith dust and you get lung cancer.
Okay, how did
Not a-
Jessica
I don't want to
factor
live on
into
the moon, even if they had a 6G network. It's just not a place I want to be.
Well, moving on to another paradise actually on Earth. We seem to be sharing a lot of news stories lately from Finland. So Adam made this graphic for our Finland themed stories. News from Finland. I guess I need to write a theme song for that. Today in news from Finland. Finland moves to ban sending unwanted penis pics. And I can't believe they didn't put dick pic in the headline, but whatever. So this is now apparently, I mean, sending someone an unwanted dick pic is crude and tasteless and bullying and sexual harassment, but not actually illegal, except perhaps it will be in Finland. And yeah, thoughts?
Well,
Good.
Seems good.
Sharilyn, you can take the lead on this.
There you go. I mean, aren't all dick pics mostly unwanted? Just typically, yeah. No, I mean, never fear, a random airdrop in public ever again.
I love how Kristin's flashing subliminally the gag that we're going to do on this. Jeffrey Toobin,
Yeah.
Of course, we were going to talk about him with this because he was caught in a Zoom meeting unwantedly masturbating during a work call, a video conference. And Jeffrey Toobin should know better because he is the legal analysis at CNN. He could use this Finnish law.
He was the legal analysis.
Oh.
Yeah.
He was the legal analysis at CNN.
I do think that exposing your private parts and touching them on a Zoom call is probably already illegal and would not be covered in this legislation. I think that I actually don't know if it is, but it would be a slightly different scenario. But yes, we can all agree that probably that whatever he did would be illegal in Finland, and we should encourage him to move there.
Well, I mean, Jeffrey Toobin and can join the millennials now in complaining how social media has collapsed the private sphere from the work sphere.
Yes.
Alex, you have any thoughts on this?
I think it's great legislation to bring in. I guess they'd have to define like the consent piece, like you'd have to make sure it's very, very legally clear, like when someone does one. I mean, I've never received such a photo from anyone, and I'm glad to say I take it that women get unsolicited dick pics pretty frequently.
Mm-hmm.
I never have. I don't know what's wrong with me, but never once in my life.
I think that's probably something to be thankful for.
Wait, really, Kristin? I've gotten an unwanted dick pic.
Not a one time.
I mean, honestly, though, in fairness, Adam, I would have guessed that. So.
And this has been news from Finland. Next, we have, in more religion news, New Orleans bishop says he burned church altar where demonic priest had dominatrix threesome. This is a pretty funny story. A priest with an unusual interpretation of his duties had a very creative encounter with some of his parishioners involving some toys and props and whips and things like that, and was caught. And I mean, burning the altar is a little bit much, but apparently they felt this was necessary in order to return the space to its normal usage.
The whole church just burnt to the ground.
No, they burned the altar. I don't know if they took it out first, though. I hope so.
Oh, altar.
Yeah.
I missed that. Okay, gosh.
Yeah.
I love that under the headline it says sinful act in red, as though that's the name of the column or like the beat.
The category.
Yeah, I would take that beat, the sin beat.
Yeah.
That's a good job. Yeah, I mean, burning the altar, I guess you don't want to remind her. We've all seen Waiting to Exhale, where she burns the car and the clothes in the background, and that's a great. And for all of you millennials and Zoom and Gen Zs out there, Waiting to Exhale is a great female empowerment 90s movie with a predominantly Black female cast. And so if you haven't watched it, go and that's one of your things that you can watch tonight. But like the burning of the evidence does you know, when someone's cheated on you, and I guess that would be a priest cheating on his church by doing that. So,
but also depending what was done on that altar, you know, maybe it just is easier to burn it than it is to disinfect it.
It's crossing so many lines. Like, how many lines are you gonna cross? Like, it's, even if he had been caught in his home doing that, like, I feel like that would be something that his church might frown on. But like on the altar itself, just, it's, yeah, that's like Jeffrey Toobin kind of.
Well, I don't think it was during church. It wasn't during a work
like,
meeting.
You know, how many
Just in the
locations
workplace.
are there in a person's life? And like, that's the one. He did it at work, right? He crossed his work and his home boundaries. I'm gonna put this pencil down because it's really distracting.
it's okay. I mean, we're all crossing. No one has a healthy separation between work and home right now. So
No.
there is, maybe he just needed some alone time and couldn't get that at home. And so the only place he could go to that he had clearance.
It was a threesome. There was no alone time.
So priests do frequently live in group housing, so that's actually probably why he probably could not get alone time, because he was living in a house with other priests.
What denomination was it?
Catholic.
It was Catholic. Okay.
Yeah.
Boy, oh boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Today in Catholic news.
Catholic news. Well, in more unusual romantic encounters, teenager finally achieves her dream of dating Godzilla. So this is a Japanese young lady, a young woman of 13, who wrote into a popular television show which grants unusual wishes to tell them that she wanted to marry Godzilla. So they had a guy in a Godzilla suit come over and take her out. And she showed him her collection of Godzilla figurines, and they went on a picnic, and she brought her grandfather as a chaperone. A lovely, wholesome story of young love.
That's touching.
I totally missed the grandfather as a chaperone was part of this story. So thank you for that.
I thought
Sharilyn.
Comic-Con canceled this year, but hey, you know, do whatever you got to do.
There's a play about this. Basically, there's a play about Godzilla where someone falls in love with him and has to take him home to meet her parents.
They did that in Toronto at Factory Theatre, actually.
Yeah, I saw it like 20 years ago.
It wasn't 20 years ago, but it maybe close enough. I remember seeing it too.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's the size difference is bigger than they showed in that photo.
So just to be straight, we see a news story about a woman dating Godzilla with the grandfather, and you guys are like, yeah, it's been done.
It has been done. Who knew?
Well, if Factory Theatre in Toronto has done it, then that's really, everyone would know. So it's done.
They did it 7 years before the young lady in question was even born. So yeah, obviously it's been very much done before.
Well, I think that's meant to be the real Godzilla, and this is, you know, more like the embodiment of him. Yeah. No, that sounds like a lot of fun. Is this like a contest she won, or is it a wish you get if you've got a terminal illness?
No, it was like a TV show that just will do stuff. So you just write in and like, I would love to go on a date with Godzilla or whatever. And they're
TV content.
That's the content. Yeah. Yeah. It's a TV show. All right. So moving on, let's skip ahead to this one because we're getting short of time. Ikea to buy back unwanted furniture for up to half original price. This sounds like a good idea unless you have ever tried to move or otherwise rebuild a piece of Ikea furniture, in which case it's like, you know, who's going to want it? But
Trashed. Yes. Oh, the splintered plywood.
Yeah.
Yeah, moving IKEA furniture is not fun. Although it does solve the fight that you have when you try and put it together.
You just take it back to the store. Well, I mean, it's a good idea, right? IKEA uses like 1% of all wood harvested in the entire world. Like IKEA is a big, and they are really trying to make a more sustainable product, or at least this says that. But I think they'd have to maybe up their game a little bit if they're intending to accept it back and resell it. Because, you know, a lot of IKEA stuff just doesn't last. And you can't, like I said, you can't move it. You move it and it falls apart.
Well, Sharilyn?
You look at it, it falls apart. They already do. If you guys remember, I think it's the Malm dresser recall from several years back. I have one of those dressers, so when I'm sick of it, I get to take it back to the store, and they'll like give me almost the original price for it.
Wow.
So there are products that you can already take back to IKEA, and they'll buy it back.
So this is just
But
their
only the
recall policy.
dangerous ones.
Yeah, the thing
Fall
is-
over the ones that fall on toddlers.
Yep, exactly.
So I actually was able to get free dresser kits to attach them to the wall from IKEA because of that recall.
Which is great if you want to keep the dresser.
Well, we did, putting these stories together, I do realize now that altar the priest used for his threesome was not made at IKEA.
No, I do not believe they have a religious section. Not yet. I mean, maybe there's an IKEA church in
And it
Stockholm
wouldn't
somewhere.
have been sturdy enough. Is that what you're saying, Adam?
Exactly, because it would have fallen apart if they tried to do that on like the Allen keyed plywood in front of the church. So we at least know that Catholic building standards are higher than IKEA's.
Well, I think they must see IKEA as sacrilegious since Jesus was a carpenter. I don't think he would approve of IKEA's craftsmanship.
No. I don't know. There's different lines. Most of my IKEA stuff that I ever bought was from the as is section.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they would take that stuff back. I don't know. At some point we started purging it and buying antiques on Kijiji, but most of what we have is we're the fourth owners or whatever, and so I don't know. I don't think they'd buy that back.
No.
I really don't think so.
Well, we always like to end with a positive note. So here is a nice feel-good story. A puppy with green fur born in Sardinia. This is a farm dog. Apparently, sometimes it happens that a white puppy will be exposed to something in its mother's womb that temporarily dyes its fur green. So this little guy was born, and his name is Pistachio. And the farmer is keeping him as a symbol of good luck and hope. And my question for the panel is, how much do you love him, and how many of him do you want?
That is adorable. I think, and the name is perfect too.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm wondering, is he going to stay green forever?
No, unfortunately, no. The color will fade over time, and he will just be, I'm sure, a very cute white dog.
Now you can get fur coloring for your dog's fur.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Is that something worth keeping? If you're going to call the dog Pistachio, are you going to explain for the rest of its life why it's named Pistachio, or are you just going to dye it green?
But don't get the wrong shade, or you'll be like Anna Green Gables when she tries to dye her hair. And
Ooh, yes, good reference.
This reminds me of going to like the Royal Winter Fair, and in the petting zoo they have those little silky chickens, and they have like one in each dyed color. It's probably the same product you're talking about, Sharilyn. So I would like to get like, I don't know, 6 of these pups and dye them a set. And at Easter, I'll sort of put them on my table and take a picture.
No, do a rainbow and go to Pride with them.
Pride, rent them out, but I don't want to raise dogs. So other than renting them, I don't have room for 6 dogs. Sorry. What breed are they? Are they going to get really big, or are they little pups?
I think they're like farm mutts.
I
think they're, yeah. Who knows?
For me, I just like it because, I mean, at the beginning of the show, I was looking for a sign of hope, something to go forward with. And they say, in the darkest of times, look for a child to be born that will bring the world hope. And this puppy seems to be that child. And so, all hail Pistachio.
All hail Lord Pistachio.
Pin all of our hopes on Pistachio. I like it.
All of our hopes are on. Let's make a better world for Pistachio.
Exactly.
That's where we will end things today. Thank you so much. This was such a great show. Sharilyn, Alex, before we go, I want to make sure that everyone knows how they can reach out, buy your products, give you support. So Sharilyn, once again, can you tell everyone what books they can buy of yours and how they can support you?
Yeah, you can look for Bears and Balls, the Colbert Report A to Z, wherever you buy books. You can find me on Twitter at Sharilyn J, SharilynJ. And a couple of my articles are linked from my website at sharilyn.ca.
Fantastic. And Alex?
Cool. So I'm on Instagram and Twitter at Alex Eddington _1. And I have a Facebook profile, Alex Eddington's Stuff. all one word. Website's alexeddington.com, and Eddington has 2 Ds. And this album, I will be promoting on all those channels. So it features Kristin's voice on almost the whole thing. And it's called A Present from a Small Distant World. It's out on the Redshift Records label. It will be on Bandcamp and also physical CDs and Spotify, places like that. And I guess you're going to lead out with the opening track, which is the title track. And the words are by Jimmy Carter, former president, uttered upon the launching of the Voyager spacecraft. So it ties back into the whole theme of the album.
Well, you're such a brain. I love it. Before we play that, though, we want to let everyone know that we're going to be back in 2 weeks for our post-election show. And we have the writer and star of Help, I'm an American, DK Reimer, joining us from Oregon. And we have one of Toronto's top comedians and actresses, Kat Lewin, is going to be with us then as well. She could read the phone book and it would be hilarious. So I'm really looking forward to that show. And if you're interested in the transfer of power between boomers and the next generations, you can actually look it up online. It is called The Great Transfer. And The Economist has written many articles on that. So that's your homework for this weekend, along with Waiting for It to Exhale, the great 1990s classic of Black female empowerment. And with that, Alex Eddington, Kristin Mueller-Heaslip, here is your outro song.
Yeah, let's get that going. So there we go.
And what do we do? Do we like shake hands and like say?
Yeah, we're all standing around a piano, like nodding awkwardly at each other.
We cast this message into the cosmos. It is likely to survive a billion years. A billion years into our future. Into our future when our civilization is profoundly altered. Of the 200 billion some, perhaps many, may have inhabited planets and spacefaring civilizations. This is a present from a small, distant world, a token of ourselves, our science, our images, our music, our thoughts, our feelings. We are attempting to survive our time, so we may live into yours. We hope someday, having solved the problems that we face, to join our community of galactic civilizations. This